everybody. This is Calvin Waite. I trade crypto for a living. I'm not a registered or licensed financial advisor, planner, or broker, so nothing on this channel should be taken as a recommendation to buy or sell. I also trade all of these things, so I probably have a vested interest in there. But there's plenty of entertainment value and lots of education, so this will be awesome. For those of you who didn't know, my subscription channel is live. So look at the link in the description over at cryptoinfluencers.com, and you can see how I make all of my trades and what I do and what I think about everything. This channel is for more hypothetical and looking at trends, and the other one is for actual trading. So you might be interested in that. All right. Well, we have a lot of things happening. A lot of things coming up very soon in crypto. And one of the major subjects that is quite, it's a big deal, is the concept of a golden cross and a death cross. So I kind of want to just take our Friday and talk about these golden crosses and death crosses. Golden cross is when a 50-period moving average crosses above the 200-period moving average. A death cross is the opposite. The 50 is dropping below the 200-period average, and it can be on any time frame. So there can be golden crosses and death crosses on any time frame. The larger the time frame, usually the more impressive. But if markets are moving slower, weekly death crosses, they can be a little bit of a lagger indicator. Daily is a little quicker, but the behavior around them is the same. So we have some interesting developments happening. As you can see on my chart, I've drawn this kind of greenish color. This green is the 50, and the blue is the 200. So if this green crosses above the blue, then this is a golden cross. And Bitcoin is way up here. And so what I want to kind of work through on this video is how do golden crosses and death crosses, what usually happens around, price-wise near a golden cross and a death cross. The other thing that we have, not only do we have this golden cross coming up on the daily, but we have the opposite happening on the weekly. On the weekly, we have a death cross about to happen. And both of these are going to behave in a different way. So, well, not a different way, but I mean, just because the death cross is a cross down and the golden cross is a cross up, there are some pressures at play. So, first of all, on Bitcoin, I'm going to just move to my larger, we're on the weekly and I'm zooming out. Bitcoin, in the history of Bitcoin, ever since it was, tracked, because it was around 2011 that it actually started messing around on Mount Gox and different things. And we just barely started getting data. We hadn't had enough data points to have a 200 until about June of 2015. So Bitcoin was about 5 years old by the time we got here. And if you can see this, there's this green line here, and we got so close to touching the blue, but we never did it. So we have never had a golden cross or death cross. We've started off with the 50 above the 200 ever since Bitcoin came on the scene, at least the charting. But we are absolutely going to have a death cross on the weekly. This is a big deal. So a death cross is usually a long-term bearish point. We're usually bearish on a death cross. Now, Bitcoin's kind of unique. It plays out a little bit different than a lot of these other markets. But some of the technicals and some of the activity around price action near these events can be similar. One major thing is that to even have the possibility of a death cross, you have to be below the 200. Almost never in the history of Bitcoin have we been below the 200. This was becoming very, very close to a death cross, but we started moving up so high, and our 50 ended up flattening out before the 200 rose up too high, and so we just never crossed here. But normally, if you have a death cross or a golden cross, it usually I'm going to show you how this normally plays out. But in this case, where the 200 has been historically support, it's been support, 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 support. We've never, except for this wacky fluke during the COVID crisis, but when you break a resistance and pop back through it on the very next candle, it actually becomes a support. So this actually is technically support. So we've had support on the 200 every single time. So this is the first time that we lost the 200, and now we're about to have a death cross. What do you think the price action will do when this death cross comes? In my opinion, we are going to reject off of the 200. I don't think it's going to be very long lasting. Like I think Bitcoin's very, very strong, and we've changed a lot of things, but we will likely see a rejection here because you don't just cross major decade-long support and just suddenly, when it's resistance, you just sail through it like butter. So this is definitely a thing that is at play. Well, you're like, okay, well, great. What about the golden cross though? Because shouldn't this be bullish? Well, this is how price action behaves around a golden cross or a death cross. And I'm just going to go back in history so you can see a couple of examples. Normally, when you're about to have a golden cross or a death cross, there will be, usually there is price action that pulls into the cross. So I'll show you right here. This was a case where we were going to have a death cross. This was in 2021. So see how we have our cross happened at 42,000, almost 43,000. And leading up to the death cross, because it was coming down, our 50 was coming down really hard and our 200 was coming up quickly. Leading up to the death cross, we ended up having price action pull up into the cross. This is very typical. So we're below, we know we're going to have a death cross. We're trading all the way down here. We know that it's coming, and price rallies up into the cross. It didn't make it all the way up to the cross, but it rallied up into it. And then as the cross happened, then we kind of fell off and kept going. And then in this case, it was sort of a very short-lived thing. We exited the red zone and moved up into the higher range, crossing above the 200, and we primed ourselves for a golden cross. So this is our golden cross. And what did price action do? We were well above all the action. We were going up really high. Everything's all exciting and wonderful. We know a golden cross is on the horizon because our 50 is rising up really fast and our 200 is flat. So we know for sure we're going to have a golden cross. And what do? We dropped right down into the cross. just like clockwork. In this case, we overshot it and ended up finding support on the 100, but we managed to stay up above and we had a nice little move here. So this one was a little bit of an anomaly. So it's not going to happen 100% of the time, but our pull up happened before, and then during the actual cross itself, we rallied up just a little bit, but nothing even close, and then we dropped off pretty solid. And then we haven't had a golden cross until this one that we're about to do. So let's look for some other examples, and we can kind of see how these golden crosses play out. So here was a time when we were about to have a death cross. Right here, price action was down, things were moving, we lost the 200, in fact we found it as resistance, and we were just days away from having this death cross, and price launches up into the cross, and eventually it did fall off, and it was still bearish, but we launched up into the cross. And so now we flipped onto the other side, exited the red zone, we're up above the 200, and we know a golden cross is coming. In fact, days before the golden cross, we hit our peak. And what happened? As we came into the cross, we actually pulled back. Just like, I mean, this is 8 out of 10 scenarios. In this case, we had the COVID thing and we just completely blew up. The death cross happened here, but look at this. Look how much we had recovered leading up to the death cross, and we had this kind of intraday spike right here. And so we recovered, and eventually there was a golden cross here, and you can see how we pulled into it before and we pulled into it after, and then we kind of leveled off and continued on our way. So these golden crosses and death crosses have very interesting behavior because this is very common to pull into, price action will pull into these crosses, and it kind of creates almost a fake out moment. So like this here, we knew we were coming in on a death cross, and days before we were pretty far away. We knew that we were coming in on it, and we pulled up in right before we had our death cross here, and we pulled down. So trading these things can be a little weird. This is, I mean, it's just common in many scenarios. This was one case where we didn't pull into it until after. Like the cross actually happened right here. We had this wild run here, and then we kind of pulled back after. But there's all these kind of pullbacks near. This one wasn't quite as clean. This one, you can see how it pulled up into the death cross, and then it pulled down. And then this one, we launched way early before the golden cross. Everyone was excited about it. And we pulled back some. It wasn't to the cross, but you can see how there are all these pressures. It's almost like a sell the news event. It's a anticipation of a cross, and then when it actually happens or nearing the event, we pull back and prices normalize. So my hypothesis is that Bitcoin is about to have a golden cross. We are very high. We have not seen a pullback at all throughout all of this entire move, and I am hypothesizing that we will pull back into the cross. I don't think, we don't necessarily have to get to the 200 or anything like that, but we will likely pull back significantly and actually have a pullback coming into this death cross. On the weekly, I said death cross and I meant golden cross. We're probably going to pull back into the golden cross. And this golden cross is scheduled to happen. I've put my little lines on here, and they're not super. I need to move it a little bit because we're climbing faster than I had anticipated. Okay, so we are scheduled to do this February 6th or 7th, and that is, 10 days away. So in 10 days, we're going to have this golden cross. I am strongly of the opinion that we will pull back to some level towards this golden cross. We know it's coming. There's a lot of excitement, and I bet we pull back. Now, is this supported on the weekly chart? The weekly chart shows that we are just about to have a death cross. Well, if we were about to have a death cross, what would you expect the price action to do? According to this theory of mine, we would expect that even if we were bearish, we would pull up into the cross even if we reject it. So this move here on the weekly is pulling into the cross, which I believe will reject, because it's not going to be a long-term forever rejection. I don't think this is the end-all be-all of Bitcoin. But I think we are pulling up into the cross, and we'll probably reject off of the cross and find support anywhere between 21,000 and 19,000. Somewhere in here, we'll probably get some good support. That is supported by the theory on the golden cross. This golden cross is going to happen at a price of 19,750, somewhere in there. And it is likely that between 19,000 and 21,000, we will pull back to some degree into that cross. And that's how I think this will play. So you might think, oh, well, that might be just Bitcoin. The S&P on the daily is just about to have a golden cross. And it's pretty wild because we've been kind of ranging between the 200 and the 50 for quite a while, and this close here popped us up, and we'll probably have it in the next probably upcoming week or so. But I would expect prices to probably pull back a little bit next week, and then we'll find confirmation on the top of this line here, and I'm betting we're off to the races on the S&P. Let's look at this was the death cross. So we knew a death cross was coming. Price action was way down. We were down at like 416. The cross was going to happen up here at 445. And before we pulled up to 440, we were down at a range of 416. Right at the death cross, we launched up and we actually passed it and hit this price up here. So we overshot our cross, but we pulled up into it. And so this has happened on the S&P. Weird, right? Well, does this happen every time? Pretty much. So here's a case where our death cross, we were very far away from it. We had our death cross. There was no pull into the cross. So this was a little bit of an anomaly. I'll give you that one. The golden cross that happened here, we pulled up. We knew the golden cross was coming, and we pulled back right into the cross, and then up we go. And it happens on the weekly. So look at this. Here's the S&P on the weekly. It's hard to find. It crosses less frequently on weekly. So here's our blue 200. So it's down here. But we did get a death cross, or excuse me, here's a golden cross on the weekly. This happened in 2011. We were way above, and so all of our prices were happening way up here, and we ended up pulling down after that, and we confirmed these lower ranges before we left. And so that's an interesting data point. This is one of those weird ones where we had sort of attempted to pull up into it and then just dropped. So this was this was definitely bearish. By the time the cross happened, we were out of there. So not as clean of a data point if you ask me on that one. But here's a golden cross. We pulled right down into it. And where's our death cross? Right here. So we were up in front. This one actually timed it well. It was we hit our actual bottom on the cross, but we still kind of recovered into the 50 before we left. But you can kind of get the idea. There's, golden crosses are very bullish, and death crosses are very bearish. But for some reason, there's this magnetic attraction to go against the herd, and I think it's sort of that derivative of the herd. This indicator is bullish, so we're gonna fake people out before it happens, or this indicator is bearish, and we're gonna fake people out before it happens. So it's sort of we're not trading on indicators anymore. We're trading on what we expect people to react to the indicator, and so it's a little different. But this same behavior is happening on Bitcoin, and it's painting the same story. So this whole time, I have been waiting for a pullback, and there are technical reasons for it. I'm not just being bearish, and I'm not just hoping. There's a lot of different angles to look at this to get support for my argument. It is very likely that we will pull into this cross on the daily, and it is very likely on the weekly that we've already pulled into the cross, and we will reject for some period of time. This is music to the ears of those who want to find an entry point. And that is what I am planning on doing. Whatever low we find on the other side of this baby is the absolute perfect entry point. So that is exactly what I'm expecting. That's what I've been planning on for quite a while. But I thought a little education on death crosses and golden crosses might help out with your general education on how trading works. So anyway, it's a lot of fun. We're doing good. I hope everyone enjoys their weekend. Saturdays are always a little wild for me, so I can't always promise a video, but I'll do my best. If not, though, I will catch everyone Monday, and so we'll talk to y'all later. Thanks for making it to the end of my video. Make sure you keep those trades small. Don't force a trade. Don't get impatient. And if you want to see how all this works, please come over and check me out on the subscription channel at cryptoinfluencers.com. Again, the link is in the description.